I'm Lisa Gable, and I have had amazing opportunities. At the age of 19, I went to work for the Reagan administration, and I worked at the White House and the Pentagon. At the age of 24, I was recruited to Intel Corporation by the man who had become CEO and chairman. At the age of 30, I had the honorary rank of a 3-star general. When I was vice chair of a Department of Defense commission, helping women become better integrated into the military and giving them more opportunities. And at the age of 40, I became a U.S. ambassador. However, today, I'm tasked with solving a very complex problem: food allergies, something that affects 85 million Americans and 500 million people around the world. What I learned from Ingenuity is to always demand unity of purpose. What I learned from former Air Force Secretary Barbara Barrett is always replace yourself with another woman when you're going out of a high-level position. Because women helping women is how we're going to solve the tough problems, whether it's giving voice to our food allergy moms or mentoring our rising leaders. And that's the purpose of this inspiring interview series. Resilience, diligence, optimism, those are the defining characteristics of the women I'm going to introduce you to. So welcome to Breakthrough. Today's episode is about breaking through the speed limit, as success knows no limits. Joining me today is a woman that I've been honored to call a friend for over 5 years. Tami is the founder of PowerDrive Motorsport Futures, with its core focus on female race car drivers and building a bridge that connects them to forward-thinking brands. Tami, welcome, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you so much for having me on today to talk about PowerDrive Motorsport Futures. I love talking about PowerDrive. It's the first of its kind. And what my company does is we connect female race car drivers to forward-thinking brands, because the only thing women lack in motorsports is opportunity.
Well, wonderful. And I should also mention that Tami is a food allergy mom, so she understands the issues and has been so supportive of our work here at FAIR. So Tami, thank you so much for that. So next, I want to talk about powerful women in the next generation of great drag racers. Race car drivers need to be focused, in control, endure pressure situations, and endurance. Those all sound like traits women are amazing at. So why has it been so hard for women to break through the glass ceiling in motorsports?
Well, I think there's a long history of the same sort of narrative and the same problem. Over 40 years ago, Janet Guthrie was the first female to qualify for the Indy 500. And she was a formidable driver. She was marketable. She's an intelligent and incredible full package athlete. And her career abruptly ended because she could not find corporate sponsorship. She could not find it. And there's a great documentary about this on ESPN Plus called Qualified, the Janet Guthrie story. And you can see her, and she's in her 80s now, and she's a part of the documentary. So it just pulls everything together. And you can see it not only through her eyes, but through her voice. And I highly recommend it. And so back then she went on major television shows and the Today shows and the evening talk shows, and was going after that corporate sponsorship, and no one would sign her. And that's why her career ended. And back then, Dick Simon said something sort of pivotal in this documentary. And what he said was corporate America just wasn't quite ready yet to partner with a female race car driver. It's so dangerous. And, over 40 years ago, it was a different culture, different mentality. But what I've noticed is things haven't changed all that much. I mean, we had Danica Patrick in NASCAR a few years back. And we have, some girls they're having some progress in the lower leagues, but we have yet to see women normalized in the major leagues like IndyCar, NASCAR, and F1 is even more difficult than those. So they're there, and what Janet Guthrie did was she inspired over more than a generation of girls to go out there and race. But unfortunately, a lot of them are having the same sort of unnecessary barriers that she had. So that's what PowerDrive is about.
Well, I'm so glad that you're doing this. And, it's interesting because, as you know, I worked with the first female pilots in the US military who were allowed to fly off ships. And, we had a US senator who was a pilot and had led the first squadron during a time of war. But it's still a transition period for a lot of women. And so I'm thrilled that you're doing this and was always excited after you and I met and I started to see the amazing work that you're doing. So tell us something, which is there a difference between male and female race car drivers? Like, is there something different or are they the same?
Well, they're not the same. What I find interesting is I really like to research things and I'm very data driven. And so back after I saw this documentary, I said, are men and women equal in a race car? And I did some research and I came upon a gentleman by the name of Dr. David Ferguson. And he works with the Michigan State University Motorsport Lab. And I called on him, and we've had many meetings since, and he's an incredible individual and a huge proponent for women in motorsports. And so he did 2 published studies about this. And what they did was they tested the men and women in both open and closed cockpit race cars, different race cars, and they put sensors all over their bodies, and they even swallow a pill, this little pill that will show their core body temperature during a race. And, when the cockpit's closed and it's very hot in there, and they wanted to test to see if men and women were equal physiologically, physically, mentally, all those things in a race car. And what they found was men and women are actually equal in a race car. The only difference is that women have 10 years less experience or opportunity than the men. So if women were to have that seat time and have those opportunities, women would actually excel in certain parts of racing. And so it was just very, very fascinating to peel this onion back and learn all this data. And he wrote a book. He's doing his work. There's a lot of great people. Not only me. It's a great network of people that are really pushing this progressive agenda, right?
Well, it's exciting. And I know that there are a lot of young girls out there who might be interested in the sport, or through all the work that you're doing and through this show, we might get them interested. So if they are, what are the top 2 tricks they need to learn?
Well, they need to learn confidence and tenacity. So I talk to so many young girls, and there's a common thread with a lot of them. And they'll say, well, I don't have the confidence to do that. I really love it. I think it's fascinating. I follow all the female racers, but I don't think I could do that. I don't have the confidence. And I always teach them, if you say you don't have the confidence, you're not going to have the confidence. So whatever you focus on expands. So find female mentors, find great male mentors. Is your dad a racing fan? Is your mom a racing fan? Is your uncle? And you really need to surround yourself with people who have that positive influence, and don't create that stinking thinking, I call it, in your head that you can't do something or you don't have the confidence. Surround yourself with people who believe in you and who believe in anything, that you can do anything you want to do. And so, you are the company you keep, and make sure you take a look at that.
Well, it's really important advice for women in all ends of the spectrum and women that are looking at new opportunities and young girls, which is to have the confidence you can do it and surround yourself by people who believe that you can. So, as we go on to the next set of the conversation, it's called Women Behind the Wheel and Women Behind the Machines. I know that one thing you've been telling me since we met is that really corporate sponsors should look at sponsoring female racers, both from a diversity perspective, but also from a STEM perspective. And you're the person that brought me up to speed on what Jet Propulsion Labs is doing in the area of car racing. And can you just tell us, like, what are some of the unusual innovations that you're seeing come into the space, the cool things? And I know we're going to have some pictures that show the different race cars.
So I'm fascinated by cars. I always have been. My older brother would take his streetcar down to Martin, Michigan growing up, and I'd watch him wrench his car, and I was always so fascinated with it. And in my sport that I'm the most familiar with is NHRA drag racing. And for the past 20 years, I've watched these rail dragsters pull out at 11,000 horsepower, going 330 miles an hour in under 4 seconds. And, keep in mind, the NHRA is the only professional league where women and men compete with each other, and it's completely normalized. It's not a big deal at all in our sport. So we know it works there. Now I'm trying to bring that mentality into the other leagues, but these cars are fascinating. And what I love about it is the engineering and the innovation, and especially what our contributions are in motorsports to safety for cars that you drive every day. And we put the latest technology and sensors and data points into these engines. And when unfortunately they crash, we can gather all of that data. And a lot of car makers use that data when they're doing their own safety measures for the newer models cars. So all of that, when you see it transferring into the consumer, is really, really fascinating. And there's a lot of engineers out there too that are female now coming up, and one in particular is Saber Cook, who is a driver, and she's a mechanical engineer. And she's the only open wheel racer that's American that is in the W Series right now this year. So she's fascinating. She goes into all of these speaking engagements, and she talks to girls, and especially rural areas. And she's a mechanical engineer and a race car driver. And she tells me all the time that girls walk up to her and say, "Oh my God, I could do that." And so what I see, with Ashley Sanford going into STEM camps and Girl Scout councils and talking to girls and having them put her fire suit on and feel what the equipment feels like, and reaching out to them, because we believe if she can see it, she can be it. And a lot of times these drivers tell me that the feedback that they get is that I had no idea I would be able to do something like that. So even if they don't want to race cars, they could be engineers. They can create things. They can be innovators. They're visionaries. And I believe we are all born a visionary. We just have to find our path. And so having these women out there as an influence to these young girls is exactly what we need.
So I have to ask, and it's a question that I know you weren't prepared for, but when Ashley goes into these camps with these girls, like, what's the top question she gets from them? What are the girls asking?
They ask a lot of the questions they ask. She did a speaking engagement for Verizon, Verizon Learning, and she went to Austin. And afterwards, she said, "Oh my God," she said, if I'm never a race car driver, I'm going to work with these young girls, and because they ask the most fascinating questions." And I think some of it, what she said was, some of the questions are you afraid you're going to crash?
Yeah.
And I think that as women, we always think about fail, like, are we going to fail? Are we going to crash? Are we going to fail? Like that, there's a common thread with that. And she says to them, "I don't think about it, not even once." And so those lessons that they're emulating to these young girls is, I don't think about losing. I don't think about crashing. I think about being the best I can be that day. And that's what I focus on.
That's a wonderful thing, is not to think about crashing. Instead, it's all about winning. It's all about how you control this machine to accomplish the objective you're trying to accomplish and how to win the race. And so those girls are so fortunate to have the opportunity to interact with you, to interact with Ashley and the other young women that are really helping them to understand what they can aspire to be. And that leads into the next piece of the conversation, which is you're an amazing mentor and you're mentoring these young female drivers. So if you're talking to them, what is the number one tip you share with somebody who's serious about the profession?
I always say it's really important to ask yourself why. Why am I attracted to this? And you really need to dig deep and try to understand what's moving the passion and what it means to you. And when you make a decision to do something like this, or anything in your life, get that confidence, do your work, be disciplined. I always say, race car drivers, even though you're not racing, you're at work every day. What are you doing? What does your morning look like? What are you putting in your body? What, not only in your belly, but in your mind? You have to have a discipline that is of an athlete. So when you look at somebody like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, or you look at Serena Williams, look at all these people and learn about them, read about them. Your job starts the minute you wake up in the morning, and everything you do that day, is it contributing to your goals? Your job is every single day, even though you're racing on the weekend, right? And so I think it's really important that that discipline is set, because you have to be a disciplined person, physically, mentally, emotionally, and you have to really dedicate your life to something like this, because it's the most difficult thing that you're ever going to do. This is your choice. And so you've got to be prepared for it, and put people around you that can elevate you.
And so, what's the one thing that you tell them never? I know when I'm mentoring young women, and I've seen so much now because I'm getting old, is, there'll be different situations that I'll tell women, don't ever do this one thing. What's the one thing you tell them not to do that you see them leaning into and you go, nope, don't do that one?
Yeah. So there's a common problem with especially female race car drivers, because everybody wants to help them, and a lot of men want to take them to dinner and help them, or they want them to speak at their event, or do this and that and the other, but they don't want to support their race car. They don't want to sponsor their race car. And a lot of the problems that have been happening, especially I would say the last 3 to 5 years that I've been hearing about, is I always tell them, be okay to say no. Be okay to say no. And, even with Ashley Sanford, we've got a lot of great sponsors that support her. But on the other hand, they don't want to sponsor her race car. And
Right.
it's hard for her to say no to speaking at their corporate event or doing Instagram posts for them. And my theory is, yes, I'll speak at your event. Yes, I'll put Instagram posts up, but this is what it's going to cost you. And then you put the money into your race car. That's been a big problem for girls, especially female racers, in NASCAR and in NHRA. And these open wheel racers, they say, well, I have to do it because I need to be out there. I need to be relevant. No, you don't have to do it. Know your worth and stick to it and be able to say no.
I love that because I think it's one thing that again goes across so many different businesses for women is truly understanding the value and making sure that you present your value in a way that you get compensated for it, and because it's going to help you achieve the long-term mission that you have. Along those lines, what would you say are the one or two most powerful habits of good drivers? Great drivers, I should say.
Like I said, discipline, focus, persistence, perseverance. I always say, sit with the winners. The conversation's different. That's a big one for me. Sit with the winners, and just be true to yourself. Never waver from that. It's easy to get caught up in the narrative of people, attaching themselves to you, that have a line, or I can help you, and just really don't let anything deter you from what your mission is. There's going to be a lot of things flung at you. People are going to treat you unfairly. You have to just be able to separate yourself from that, and keep your mission in focus.
Well, wonderful words of wisdom. So, along that line, what women or women inspired you in your life?
I've been asked this question before, and you always want to have some great answer, but I'm going to be absolutely authentic. My mother, those women are so powerful and so strong, and the gifts I've been given to them, I haven't really even realized up until now. After the last year of homeschooling, starting a business, and all of these things, I just hear my grandmother's voice in my head constantly going, keep going, you got this, keep going. And my mother, oh my God, she she is of my grandmother. So there's another one. And the other one, I would have to say, she's not a woman yet, but my 8-year-old daughter is one of the most incredible individuals I've ever been blessed enough to know. And she's here with me. She's homeschooling, and we spend some breaks together, have some dance party breaks. And she's like, Mommy, how's your meeting? And Mommy, we collaborate with each other, and she gives me some wisdom I had no idea she had. So, I would have to say the women in my family.
And so along those lines, what advice do you have for a young woman watching who's trying to break through, or a woman who might be re-entering the workforce?
My advice would be shoot me a DM. Let's get on the phone. Let's talk about it. I mean, every woman is going through something different right now. With coming off over a year of this pandemic, and a lot of women are struggling right now. And I was one of them, and I am some days. And we all have this road that we're on, and we need to collaborate. We need to support each other. And I'm always open to having discussions with women about anything that they're struggling with. Send me a DM, and we'll get a conversation going, because I honestly believe that over the last year, the greatness that I've seen in women coming together and banding together has been really powerful and really hopeful. And I want to continue to give into that and give back, because I'm so grateful for all the blessings that I've been given this last year. So, and reach out to your friends, talk to your people in your community, put together a coffee for women that can just get together now that things are opening up, and keep that narrative going, and keep that collaboration going, and keeping each other lifted.
And then last question, what would you say is the one thing you want to do or you are doing to inspire the next generation of leaders?
I am going to do it out on the field, out on the racetrack. I'm going to be normalizing women all across the globe. There will be women in Formula One. There will be women in IndyCar, not one, not two. We want to equalize this thing. We want to disrupt a $6 billion a year industry, and it's good for business. And we don't want to push. We don't want to fight. We want to inspire. We want to inspire the brands, the team owners, the leagues. And I think the timing couldn't be more perfect. Everyone's feeling this bubble about to burst. And I'm just so grateful that I'm a small part of that. And so what I want to do next is get PowerDrive off the ground, get these women out there competing alongside men. And I'm going to push it even further. I have a little something else going on in the global media space, where it's going to bring that initiative even higher. So hopefully we'll be talking about that in the next few months.
So, Tami, I know as a food allergy mom, you also have drivers who are also dealing with food allergies and intolerances. Tell us a little bit about them.
So it's so interesting, because I am a food allergy mom. My 8-year-old daughter has a very severe allergy to tree nuts, in particular cashews. And having come from a family that doesn't have food allergies, this was a new thing for me. So it's been a roller coaster ride, and I'm so grateful to FAIR for having such a wealth of information, and how you guys really are doing a great job in communicating that this isn't some mark on you. This is something that a lot of people suffer from, and that you shouldn't feel inferior for that. And so I appreciate FAIR for that so much. And I have a couple of drivers that I didn't know had food sensitivities. And one is Toni Breitinger, and she's the first Arab American woman to compete in the NASCAR series. And Brittany Zamora also has those same types of food sensitivities. She's also in NASCAR, which makes it really difficult when you're at a racetrack to, like, what are you going to eat? So their challenges are getting, the right food items onto the track and into the trailer, so they can, get nutrition into their bodies when they're doing all this strenuous work. So it's been fascinating learning more about just the different types of people that do have these food sensitivities and allergies. And I loved your Instagram post recently about all the celebrities. And I had no idea that these these celebrities had also struggled with this. So I think just talking about it brings a smile to my face, because I feel like we're not alone in it. And I feel like there's a really, really great conversation happening. And with what FAIR does, with all the money you guys put into research, everyone in the spectrum that's dealing with this is very grateful.
Well, thanks for mentioning it. And it's great to know about your drivers. And also, as you know, I check in on your daughter, and we are so grateful that the materials we have are useful to you and to other people. Very quickly, give us a website, your Instagram account, whatever it is you want people to go check out all this amazing work. And I have to say, fabulous photography that captures and really brings to life what you're doing.
Absolutely. Men are visual. And a lot of the men are writing the checks, and we love men, and we love surrounding ourselves with great men who believe in what we're doing. So so the website's very visual. It's very fantastic. So I hope everybody can go take a look at it at www.powerdrivemf.com. And I'm on Instagram and Twitter at PowerDriveMF. So hope to see you guys soon.
Check it out, everybody. Tami, thank you so much for joining us. We so appreciate it. And we know that our listening audience is going to love this show. Thank you.
All right. Take care.